Hello and welcome. What the fuck? We'll just restart that. Blip, 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 blip. Here we go. Hello and welcome to Three's a Crime, a true crime podcast. I'm Tori.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Lindsey.
And that's our intro.
Here we are professional podcasters.
We're podcasters, bitches.
Hi.
We are so excited.
What story are we hearing today, Lindsey?
Whoa. Was that another piece from the recycle?
That was
Oh,
yeah,
wait,
where are the
do
dogs?
we-
The dogs are outside. Oh my god.
I was
God
like,
damn it, Emily. You're doing
missing something.
too many things.
Okay, Lindsey, what story are we hearing today?
Today we're going to learn about Candyman.
The Candyman.
We're going to learn about the
Candyman?
true events
The
behind
Candyman
that
can.
The Candyman.
kind of inspired it, but there is a whole other thing, and then it's a lot.
So Lindsay has been very excited about this story because
Yes.
the Candyman movie is coming
Yes,
out
the new
on the
one.
27th.
Yes.
Are you going to see it in theaters? Are we going to see it in theaters?
I've not seen the original.
You haven't seen the original Candyman?
No.
Okay, that's the one we're getting together and watching.
That's
haven't
what
seen
I
it either.
wanted to
Twitch.
try to stream. Yes. Okay, so
There are dogs playing in the background. It's almost dinner time for Mia, so
okay.
Settle. Goldie Hawn.
The Candyman can. Does it taste good with love makes the world taste good.
Are we sure we can with her?
she'll stop. Lindsay, scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love podcasting with us?
I love it.
So, Lindsay, who are we hearing about today?
We need to put how many times we say Candyman.
I'm playing Best Fiends. Sponsor us. They had a lot. Once they both, I feel like we're talking about kids. We're like, once they both realize how tired they are, they'll sleep all day tomorrow. I sound like a dad who forgets his keys and says, "You're not gonna go far without these."
Candyman can.
Candyman.
This Candyman's not the nice
He is not a
Candyman.
nice Candyman.
This is also not the Candyman who was related
Yes.
with, or who not related to, but not with the same guy that was with Gacy.
Yes,
Right.
this is
A completely different
this
dude.
is me doing things that inspired movies.
Right.
So it's the early 90s Candyman
Cool.
slasher, whatever.
Slasher flick.
Everybody.
Everybody.
All right, so Candyman all starts with Clive Barker.
Clive Barker.
the producer?
I was about to tell you.
Okay,
But I think he is a producer.
Sorry, I'm done. I'm not going to say anything else the rest of this episode.
Clive Barker. He's an English playwright, a horror/fantasy author, visual artist, illustrator, comic writer, and comic artist, a director, and a weird motherfucker. In the mid-1980s, he became more known with a series of short stories called The Books of Blood. And when the books were printed in the U.S., Stephen King is quoted saying, "I've seen the future of horror. And his name is Clive Barker." In 1987, he wrote and directed his first movie, Hellraiser.
Oh,
Which is-
that's the one with the guy with the pins
Pin
coming out of his
needle.
It's
face.
Pinhead, my favorite.
We're just gonna ignore Mia in the background sounding like a whale getting slaughtered.
So he wrote and directed his first movie, Hellraiser, which is based on his 1986 novella, The Hellbound Heart.
Ooh.
And it's one of my favorite movies. Clive wrote a short story called The Forbidden that's included in the Books of Blood series that introduces the Candyman character. So here's a quote from his book describing Candyman. He was bright to the point of gaudiness. His flesh was a waxy yellow.
Ooh.
His thin lips are pale blue.
Ooh, that's
His
not the
wild
right
eyes
color.
are glittering as if their irises are set with rubies.
Oh.
His jacket was patchwork and his trousers are the same. He looked, Helen thought, almost ridiculous with his blood-stained motley and hint of rouge on his jaundiced cheeks.
Ooh.
He also has a hook for a hand,
Oh my goodness.
like the Candyman movie. In Clive's story, Candyman has no race, name, or place of origin and has no backstory, but he's like a charming sorcerer. Like,
Sorcerer.
you really get kind of drawn in
Okay.
by him. So there are a lot of parts from this story that are sprinkled into the movie, and Clive wrote this more as like a dark romance, like Edgar Allan Poe, like
I
Like the
loved
Telltale Heart.
Edgar
Dracula,
Allan Poe.
like yeah. So Bernard Rose is the director of Candyman, and he really went with the dark romance for Candyman. So the Candyman adventure all started with Bernard Rose running. He's a director. He's done a couple other movies by this time. So he ends up running into Clive by chance, and Clive had finished Nightbreed. That's based on another story by Clive. It's fucking great movie.
Okay.
They get talking, and Bernard.
Burp.
Bernard.
That's gonna happen. It's Bernard.
The word.
God, remember that meme?
Bernard.
Oh my god, how popular that was.
What mean?
The oh my god
my
girl.
God.
Oh my god goosebumps. That's what it was.
They got talking, and whatever. It's Bernard. Bernard was like, "Bro, I fucking love your story, The Forbidden." Clive was like, "Dog, no need to yell. I know my shit's good, and you can totally have the rights to it."
Wow,
So he
what a
gives the
nice
rights to
dude.
Bernard,
God damn it.
and then they embrace and hug. I like to mention.
That's
Lindsay likes
Lindsay's
to
interpretation
take,
of what happened.
to take liberties in her storytelling. Anytime you hear someone and then they kissed or and then they hugged,
Then they hug.
that's usually something that was
It's not
sprinkled
real.
in by
Yeah.
Lindsay.
It's what my imagination likes to say. Clive's story really revolved around the British class system in Liverpool, but Bernard wanted to adapt the story for the US, particularly basing it in the Chicago housing projects, Cabrini Green.
So was Bernard
Bernard.
is he English?
No.
Oh, because I was gonna say, because you said about Liverpool, that in England they would say Bernard.
Oh. Maybe
instead
I'm
of
just
Bernard.
channeling.
Bernard.
I
Right.
prefer it being funny than proper. So
Yeah, way to
Or like
ruin it.
I'm gonna cut that out. No, I'm just kidding. I won't cut it out.
Bernard spent some time there at CG. That's Cabrini Green. I'm going to call it CG. And he felt like it was a perfect place to film this movie. Bernard said, quote, "It's a perfect place to film because people were actually afraid of driving past it. And there was such an aura of fear around the place. And I thought that was really something interesting to look into because it's sort of kind of like a fear that's at the heart of modern cities. And obviously it's racially motivated, but more than that, it's poverty motivated."
Mm-hmm.
So he went back to CG a couple more times and visited with a lot of people. And he said, "That's one of the things I love about the horror genre. I love that it's a vehicle for people's anxieties. It's a very interesting view into what's going on in society at the time."
Yeah. I never would have thought about that prior to meeting you. Actually, like that's a really good point that Ed didn't even.
It makes you have control
They're not just
over.
terrifying horror movies all
Exactly.
the time. Like they
Yeah,
actually have a purpose.
Yeah, you
behind
have a
them.
control over the like how
Yeah.
you get scared and
The way that fear works, and I really want to do an episode on like why we love horror movies and why we love being
that'd be great.
scared.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting concept to think about because some people love it, some people are horrified of it. And
Yeah.
you are so into like how it's made and why it's made. And
Yeah. I find horror movies a lot have more meaning and more depth than other movies, and I think that's why I really gravitate. Like with Hellraiser, it's karma. Like Pinhead comes if you fucking choose to go down that path of darkness.
Oh, I
and
didn't know that. Okay.
It's really more about like, you asked for this, you're gonna fucking get it.
Right.
So that's
Yeah. Cool.
So I'm gonna tell you a little about the movie.
Okay.
Okay, Candyman was released in 1992 and is described as a supernatural horror film. It's written and directed by Bernard Rose. It stars Virginia Madsen, Tony Todd, Xander Berkeley, Cassie Lemons, and Vanessa Williams. So the movie is based on Helen, who Virginia plays, a Chicago grad student. She's working to finish her thesis on urban legends and folklore.
Goldie.
That was her. What?
So the character of Candyman is played by the fucking amazing Tony Todd. He's an incredible actor, and before he found this movie, he said he was searching to find his own version of the Phantom of the Opera. Which this is kind of because it's romantic, like
Goldie Hawn.
Sorry, Lindsey.
Okay, so the character of Candyman is played by Tony Todd. They originally wanted Eddie Murphy.
Oh wow.
Okay.
That would have been a far different movie.
Yes. Tony was 6'5", so he fit the character way better than Eddie, who's shorter.
Not 6'5".
And he wanted a shit ton of money. So that didn't happen.
makes sense.
He's great, but it wouldn't.
It would.
work.
Was he like more
wasn't
famous
the
in the
right-
90s?
Yeah.
Like to where he could like it would have like he would have been like, yeah, this isn't enough money. I need
Yeah.
like 20.
This
$1
is like
million.
Beverly Hills Cop. This is like
Right.
Even still, Eddie Murphy wouldn't have been right for that role.
No.
Like he just wouldn't have.
Okay, so Bernard wanted to make the
Bernard.
character kind of I'm a romantic figure like Edgar Allan Poe, the romance of death. Bernard said, quote, he's the resurrection of something that is kind of unspoken or unspeakable in American history, which is slavery as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's come back haunting what is the new version of the racial segregation in Chicago. The movie was filmed at Cabrini Green for like a week. The casting crew made deals with the local gang leaders who controlled all of CG. Oh, here we go.
She'll stop eventually.
They agreed to have multiple residents be extras in the movie. What if you gave her a bone?
I thought about that too.
That was her saying, "Kiss me a bone."
Wow. The dogs have their toys.
They should be.
That should be good. We should be
God.
ready to rock and roll now.
Anyone who says that dogs are not as hard as children doesn't have enough dogs.
It's true. It's true.
Okay.
They agreed to have multiple residents be extras in the movie to keep it as safe as they could.
Okay.
Bernard truly respected the story and the people that it was about. They even took the script to the NAACP to make sure it was appropriate.
Remember when Rachel Dolezal was in the NAACP?
She
She
was
was
the
the
head.
president.
Remember
of
when she
fucking
was the head of the
Spokane?
NAACP?
Well,
fucking
in
bitch.
Spokane, not
In
the,
Spokane.
not the head of the, but yeah.
Yeah.
Google that bitch.
Google
if-
Rachel Dolezal.
Ugh.
She came from our hometown.
Yep.
That woman is a hot fucking mess.
So Clive Barker ends up being a producer on the film, and so they really worked together to keep the baseline of his story as well as making it current for US. So in the movie, Helen and her BFF in the film, Bernadette, played by Cassie Lemons, have learned that Ruthie Jean, who lived
Ruthie
at
Jean.
Cabrini CG, may have been killed by Candyman.
Oh my.
So the two women go to CG to find any information they can about Ruthie. After some shit, they end up at Ruthie's apartment, and they find in the bathroom that the mirror allows passage to the adjoined apartment.
Oh, don't love that. Nope.
Helen finds some wild fucking shit in a space that is a huge portrait of Candyman on the wall, and there's a bag of candy with razor blades.
Oh, that's what your parents warned you about on Halloween. That's what they were checking for, razor blades from Candyman.
Yes. Helen takes a shit ton of pictures, and she runs out of film because they had film then.
Yes.
No goddamn phones. So
No
after,
goddamn phone.
Not even digital cameras at that
No.
point. Like, that wasn't even an option.
no. After this, the women meet Ruthie's neighbor, Annie Marie McCoy. They discover that if you say Candyman 5 times into a mirror, he'll appear behind
Nope.
you and use his bloody hook that he has as a hand to kill you.
I am not a fan.
And more things happen, but you should watch it. Okay, so that's like the basics of the movie. Okay.
What is happening over there?
Sometimes my iPad and work
She
don't
goes,
get along.
Oh, you fucking. What'd you say? Oh, you fucking. I fucking swear to God.
So it's 1992.
Maker, that was the year I was conceived.
I was 13.
Get the fuck out of here.
Remember when I called you a dinosaur the other day?
Yep. I sure do.
So I'm going to do a mini year recap again for the story because what's happening in the US at this time is extremely relevant to the movie and the real story.
Be sure to also mention that I was conceived on Halloween in 1992.
So,
Really?
Okay, I'll put that in the end.
That makes
you.
a lot of sense.
It truly
I'm
does.
just saying. Like, I just want everybody to know that makes a ton of sense.
That and the Leo. Like, the only Cancer things you have are staying home.
Yeah, like an
and-
introvert.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it.
I can fake extrovertism very well, but
I think we all can, but
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
just
We're all introverts. Which
Yeah.
is really funny that we're all
doing a
introverts.
yeah.
Masquerading as extroverts.
yeah,
the
masquerading
podcast.
as extroverts. I like that. We need
So
a T-shirt that
We
says that.
do. Write it down.
Introvert
Tori.
masquerading as an extrovert.
Yeah.
Write it down. Somebody write it
Yeah,
down.
write it down.
Candyman is released October 16th, 1992. Dad George Bush is president, the first.
Mm-hmm.
And so, also, I vaguely remember this, but in January, DGB was having a state dinner in Japan and was filmed throwing up into the lap of the Prime Minister of Japan.
Oh,
I
dear.
thought it was funny.
God.
February 10th, Mike Tyson was convicted of raping Desiree Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Well, that was big news.
He
Oh
did-
my
and then he
God.
like bit
I remember the dude's ear, bit the dude's ear off. That's all I really
he
know.
went through a period of just
It was Holyfield, right? Wasn't it Holyfield's ear
yes,
bit?
yeah. On February 17th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, motherfucking Jeffrey Dahmer was sentenced to life in prison.
I need you to say where that was. One more
Milwaukee, but I call it
Mil-
Milwaukee from Wayne's World.
Milwaukee. I was like, you. That's not how you say
Alice
that.
Cooper is like, they used to say Milwaukee.
Okay, and so I'm sorry. Jeffrey Dahmer was what?
He was sentenced to life in prison
Okay.
that year.
Wow, 1992.
Yeah.
I remember being in like middle school or high school when these things happened. And then this asshole over here's like, that's when I was conceived. I was just an egg that had sperm put into it and you were getting your period.
It happened on the floor, and she said that she knew right after that she was pregnant. She said, "I just knew. I
Yeah.
just knew I was gonna." I
Trigger
just
tree.
knew."
So which were you?
Mostly Trick.
On April 2nd, John fucking Gotti was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison.
I don't know who that is either.
Big mafia man.
Yeah,
His daughter had a
huge.
show and
Yeah.
Oh,
There-
my
he was
gosh.
big.
he was like a mafia don. Big dude. Big
Yeah.
dude.
Wow.
On April 6th, Barney and Friends debuts on PBS.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I was
that-
8 or 9, and I remember fucking hating Barney. All right, so oh boy, between April 29th to May 4th in California, a jury acquits 4 LAPD officers who were accused of using excessive force in the videotaped
Rodney
beating of
King.
Rodney King.
Oh.
And I remember watching that. Like the verdicts and stuff, and when it came out, and then the looting and the whole,
Well,
And-
it causes the 1992 Los Angeles riots. The riots lasted for 6 days, and there are 63 deaths and $1 billion in damage.
Wow.
So a little about what happened with Rodney. He was arrested after a high-speed chase while he was intoxicated. The video is infamous and shows the police, pulling him over, beating the absolute fuck out of him
Mhm.
while he's unarmed and on the ground in the fetal position.
And not resisting,
Yep.
mind you. Not
The
resisting.
police had to hit him with their batons between 53 to 56 times.
Yeah, I mean, it's gruesome to watch.
It's really, ugh, it's hard.
It is. It's really hard. And when that verdict came out, I mean,
People were done. People had enough.
92. So I was 13. And even as a 13-year-old, I'm like, are you literally trying to tell me that I didn't watch what I just watched?
Mhm.
Yep. On May 19th, Amy Fisher shoots Mary Jo Buttafuoco,
Oh,
who
yeah.
is the wife of Joey Butta, that's what I call him,
Butter.
who was
And, you
cheating
know-
on Mary Jo with Amy.
And this week, I will be the one to say that Morbid has a great podcast that they actually did with Bailey Sarian about Amy Fisher, the Long Island Lolita.
Yes, I listened to that episode with Bailey Sarian.
Mhm.
I
It's
remember
a-
telling you about it.
Yeah, well, because she was on, like, I think we both listened to it that same
Yeah.
week.
We had talked about it.
But it is a really good episode, and they really, I mean, don't get me wrong, Amy Fisher, batshit crazy, but she was also really young. She was 16.
She was
17? I mean,
16, 17.
She was really young.
She was a baby, and I'm sure he was really good at manipulating.
enjoying this, but
Yeah,
but like, no, Buttafuoco groomed her,
yeah.
and in all of this, Amy Fisher got all the blame. Like Monica Lewinsky, she gets all the blame, but not
Women
the
always
older
get the
man who
blame.
was in a position of power. I get, like, all right, sorry, triggered. Story for another day. Go for it.
On August 21st to 22nd, that's when we're recording August 21st right now. But in 1992, 29 years ago, Ruby Ridge happens.
Oh,
And
that's
I-
another one for
Let's say, which is a whole
going to,
giant
that's
shit
on his
show that
list.
I'm not getting into because that's a big deal. We're like here. But guys, this year also, 99
What's happening?
brings us Wayne's World.
Wayne's World, Milwaukee. What did you say?
Milwaukee. Have you
Milwaukee.
seen Wayne's World? My grandma and I would go to weekly dates to see a movie at the
That's what you
theater,
said.
and I made her go see that with me.
Oh my god.
What did she
What?
think of
Yeah.
it?
She just went along with it. God bless that woman.
Oh my gosh,
She
that's
just went with
amazing.
And supported me. She hated it, but we're gonna talk about Cabrini Green. Now we're just gonna bring it down, everybody.
Oh, we started off nice. And
We did.
breezy.
So
Easy
Cabrini
breezy,
Green
beautiful.
was one of the most notorious public housing projects in America, often called a city within a city. One tenant is quoted saying, "When I first came here, it reminded me of Vietnam."
Wow.
It
That's
was- Yeah.
yikes.
That's a statement.
Yeah.
It was built in the 40s and 50s and was supposed to give people a safe and integrated and expensive way to live while they saved up to buy a house. And then before that, in the late 19th century, the area was a gas works, a place where coal is made into gas, and was called Little Hell. So it's not had good vibes.
No.
In the late 1980s, it was 70 acres that became its own world with its own laws and its own language. It was part of the worst public housing system in the country at the time. In the 80s, the federal government threatened to take it over, but that just kind of fizzled. The Chicago Housing Authority didn't even know who lived where and what buildings. At that time, there were 100,000 waiting to live there, and gangs run the housing and they provide the structure of the world in those 70 acres. So the gangs mark their turf with spray paint, tagging, and they have sniper posts set up in the high-rise buildings to keep control of their area.
Yikes.
The working poor, who the place was built for, have left. So the ones who are left living there are the desperate and hopeless, quote unquote. So most of the families in the housing are single mothers. In 1989, 60% of the people there are single mothers raising their families, and 2/3 of the population are children. There.
Wow.
They interviewed a mother and her son. I watched this like little baby documentary that they did. It was like 89, I think. And he interviewed these two people, and she called it hell. She said she was always on edge, wondering if a bullet would end up going through her home at any moment.
That's terrifying.
I mean, think about the fact that you can't even feel safe at home, like the one place you're supposed to feel safe.
She was scared she would be shot just going to the store. Okay, so they interviewed her son. He was probably like 8 or 9. And he broke my heart. He says that you don't go outside there because bad things happen.
Oh.
He was talking about playing outside once, and a shooting started. And he says he runs away to try to save himself for it. So, like, they're prepared constantly.
They're constantly on edge
Yeah.
because they literally never know when something
Yeah.
terrible is going to break out. That's so sad.
In 89, the Housing Authority was $30 million in debt. So, none of the building codes were enforced. The elevators in the buildings rarely worked. And the elevators were called the most dangerous form of public transportation in Chicago. The elevators were taken over by the gangs.
Oh my god.
So a resident said that one time the gang members would hide their guns on the roof of the elevator and sometimes would wait themselves up there until a single woman would be in the elevator.
Oh my god.
They would then assault the woman. And when it's working and everything goes okay, when the door opens to the floor, it's so fucking dark that you can barely see in front of you.
Oh my god, it's like in The Conjuring where she goes to the basement.
It truly
That's
is.
what
Like,
I'm thinking of.
on the video, you can't see anything. It's terrifying. Residents said, who knows what will be waiting for you out there, and violent, sudden death is expected there and at any time. On March 30th, 2011, the last building was demolished, though, so it's no longer. So on the west side of Chicago, still in the Cabrini area, there were the Abbott homes, which were also public housing, and there were 4 different developments. Jane Addams, the Grace Abbott, Albert Brooks, and Loomis Courts. So these 4 buildings were old as fuck, especially the Jane Addams building, which was built in 1938. All of these buildings were demolished between 2002 and 2007. So for this story, we're just going to focus on the Grace Abbott home. So the Grace Abbott home was the most dangerous building of the ABLA section. Like I talked about earlier, the buildings were dark, light bulbs were rarely changed, the elevator barely worked, and the stairwells were pitch black.
The rapey elevator barely works.
Pretty
Wait,
much.
did it happen in that building too?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. So
Yeah.
so it's definitely a rapey elevator still.
Yeah.
Great. Love that.
One other reporter said, quote, "Fiends really are lurking in the shadows here. In these towers, you're crazy if you're not always looking over your shoulder."
Can I just say that that's how women feel all the time?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ruthie Mae McCoy.
Ruthie Mae. You sounded like a sheep for a
Ruthie
second.
Mae
Ruthie
McCoy.
May.
Remember Ruthie?
Ruthie Mae. I remember
McCoy?
Ruthie McCoy.
McCoy.
She was 52 years old, and she lived in the Grace Abbott building at the very end of the corridor on the 11th floor.
This isn't gonna end
No,
well.
it's not.
Now, Ruthie Mae had a deep history of paranoia and mental health issues. She was trying to survive in a CHA project, the Chicago Housing Association, while dealing with her mental health. She was known around there as Miss May, and at the Abbott, she was known to dress like a bag lady. She would curse at strangers and wave a stick at any teens who were in her way.
Like the.
I would just like to say that is the kind of old lady that I want to be.
I thought the same. I was like, oh my god, I
already curse at teens, so.
Goldie, don't. Goldie.
Okay, Ruthie Mae was born in Hughes, Huges, Arkansas. She's one of 8 kids.
Huges.
Huges.
I'm from Huges, Arkansas.
Huges, Arkansas. She was one of 8 kids, and her family moved to Chicago's South Side trying to find and build a better life. As a family of 10, they found it super hard to even just scrape by. Her father would... What the fuck was
What
that?
was that?
Her father would load coal onto wagons for a shit wage. And when she was in her 20s, her mental health issues started to be more predominant. Her family doesn't know what kind of issue it was. Couldn't really find anything that said why me is upset. She's very upset
She is
about
very
Ruthie Mae.
upset about Ruthie Mae right now.
That she said she would have just random bursts of anger and she would talk to herself. Ruthie Mae's mom was a devout Baptist and, quote, chased us into church and taught us the way of the Lord.
That never works out well, chasing kids into church.
No. When her siblings were asked what they thought was going on with her, then they mainly said that she had spiritual issues. Her sister Beatrice said that she thinks when her issues got worse that, quote, there's such a thing as the devil, you know, when she got out of God. So she thinks she became mentally ill because she didn't...
Because she wasn't religious enough?
I think so. Wasn't putting God first. In 1986, the residents of ABLA were abused, raped, and murdered more than twice as it happened citywide.
That's insanity.
The violent crime rate at ABLA was significantly worse than Cabrini. Yeah.
I feel the same way, Mia.
Ruthie Mae was 27 years old when she had her only child, Vernita. She never married, and the father pieced out like an asshole. And so this left Ruthie incredibly bitter about men in general, and I would be too. During Vernita's childhood, she stayed with relatives off and on. Ruthie Mae did okay with managing her meds, but she was institutionalized several times. When she wasn't able to manage her meds, she would talk to herself, cuss out strangers. And Vernita thinks that because Ruthie Mae was tall at 5'11" and kind of a big woman, it kind of staved people off from her.
Right.
But the original description for her was rude. They called her hulking.
Oh, jeez.
My God, what
She
kind
was-
of word
And
is
with
that?
how much she weighed.
Oh,
To
that's
describe
rude.
someone?
Yeah, I was like,
Yikes.
that's rude. I'm not
That
gonna fuck put
is
that shit in there.
rude.
Ruthie worked some jobs, but was unable to continue for longer than a month or so with them. She survived on aid and lived in the housing projects. Her basement flooded when she lived in Humboldt Park and applied for CHA housing. She requested specifically to not be placed in a high-rise. But when you're accepted into the housing, you take what
You
you're
just get
given.
what you can get, yeah.
On April 22nd, 1987, at 8:45 p.m., Ruthie Mae called 911 in an absolute panic. She began reporting to the dispatcher, quote, I'm a resident at 1440 West 13th Street, and some people next door are totally tearing this down, you know, and then that's cut off.
Oh.
And then, what are they doing, ma'am? Asked the dispatcher. Ruthie Mae's response is too garbled to hear to make out what she says. So the dispatcher says, they want to break in? And Ruthie says, yeah, they throwed the cabinet down.
Oh.
Dispatcher says, where? I'm in the projects. I'm on the other side. You can reach my bathroom. They want to come through the bathroom. And I'm just doing this quote.
Right.
This is what she said.
Well, and she's like in a panic, so it probably is like, you know.
The dispatcher says, all right, ma'am, at what address? She repeats the address at apartment 1109. The elevator's working. And then dispatcher 1109, all right, what's your name, ma'am? Ruthie McCoy. All right, I'll send you the police. So after the dispatcher ended the call, he sent a police car to her address for a disturbance with a neighbor. This is one of the first steps in the process that fucking failed Ruthie.
Oh, damn it.
Mm-hmm. The police didn't arrive to her door until 9:02 p.m.
And what time did she call?
8:45.
Okay.
Okay, so it took him 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Not the worst I've ever heard,
No.
but
Right.
not
Yeah.
great. Okay.
If the dispatcher had let them know it was a break-in attempt, they would have come sooner, probably.
Fabulous.
During this whole shit show, another 911 call came in for apartment 1109 from a woman saying she heard gunshots from the 1109 apartment. At 9:04, another neighbor called to say that they heard hollering and gunshots from 1109. They then sent 2 more police cars to Ruthie. When the police got to Ruthie's door, it was 9:10. They banged on her door and announced their presence. The police then had the 911 dispatcher call Ruthie to see what was going on because nobody was answering the door.
Well, yeah.
The police
Should have gotten
said,
there fucking
quote,
faster, but whatever.
the police said, quote, "We think somebody may be in there holding somebody."
Oh, do you?
The officers listened to her phone ring and ring. 2 more police officers showed up downstairs while the police upstairs were trying to get a hold of Ruthie. They got the key for her apartment, but it didn't fit the lock. At this point, apparently the police didn't know what to do. They talked with their neighbors. The apartment next to Ruthie's was vacant, and some neighbors down the hall said that they didn't see or hear anything.
Well, and this doesn't bode well if all the neighbors already think she's nuts.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Others said that an elder woman lived there, and that, quote, "They say she always answers her door." One of the officers told dispatch, quote, "And there's no answer, so I don't know if maybe she answered to the wrong person or what." End quote.
Weird.
The police talked to the janitor, and he said he had no key for 1109. It wasn't working. So at 9:48, the police left.
So they just left.
Yep.
They didn't try to enter the apartment.
There's more.
Well, and you know, there's a part of me too, especially for this time period in that area. I'm sure the police already had the bias in their head. But even still, domestic disturbance among these people, they're always causing problems.
Right.
Yeah.
The proverbial they.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm just, whatever. Oh, God.
The next day, Deborah Lastly, who was a neighbor of Ruthie on the 11th floor, said Ruthie usually stopped by and talked with her on her way to leave for the morning. And she saw police at her door last night, and she was worried. With this information, whatever, they sent 6 police officers and about 4 to 5 CHA security dogs.
Oh my God.
Is that a whole
That is an entire thing of noodles.
ramen cup?
There's like a little tooth mark.
Where did she even get it?
She just comes trotting out here.
So proud.
I was gonna say she's
Ramen.
so proud of herself.
She's so cute, though. Like,
I love that there's like a little
there's one puncture mark. She was so gentle.
So, with Deborah's information, they sent 6 police officers and about 4 to 5 CHA security guards. They arrived to her door, but nobody answers. The police wanted to knock down the door, but the guards said not to in case a tenant wanted to sue them.
Okay.
They
I
also
can't
said,
believe they didn't knock it down the night before. Like,
yeah.
there was a 911 call, and now, like, for example,
if this was white
yeah, absolutely,
people, they would have taken it down immediately.
And if you call 911 and hang up, and they call back and you don't answer,
They, like,
they
have to
automatically
come.
send police.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's no excuse. Goldie Hawn. Solo.
The security guards also said that if you take the door down, then someone has to come and help secure the broken door.
I was gonna say, that sounds like such a fucking like apartment maintenance man thing to say.
Yep.
Like,
Then they all
I
left.
have to get a new door
Again.
God damn it! They left twice. Fabulous.
The next day,
This one's on
3
you.
days later.
Oh, so basically when it starts to smell bad.
Just would you let
Sorry.
Just would you let me? Her neighbor Deborah told the project office about her worries for Ruthie. At 1 p.m. that day, they drilled through Ruthie's lock.
I mean, okay.
When they entered the apartment, they found Ruthie in her bedroom lying on her side in a pool of blood. She had one shoe off, and her hand was over her chest. There were papers and coins and magazines strewn all over the floor, and when police got there, they turned her slightly, and out comes the smell of rotting flesh.
Yeah.
Ruthie Mae was shot 4 times. The medical examiner said one bullet passed through her left shoulder, another passed through her left thigh. The third bullet entered the right side of her abdomen, pierced her liver, and exited the left side. And the fourth bullet was the fatal one. It passed through her right upper arm, entering her chest, severing the pulmonary vein. The examiner listed the cause of death as internal bleeding. Ruthie didn't die immediately, but the person...
Did she die in 12 minutes?
The examiner says Ruthie didn't die immediately, but they don't think she lasted long as the bullet took out the main lung vein.
Right.
The examiner said that Ruthie wouldn't have survived if she even was taken to the hospital right after the shooting.
Well, we'll never know, will we?
Yeah.
Ruthie was one of 3 ABLA residents that were murdered in the last days of April.
Oh, 3?
2 days after... Baby girl, you're killing me. Go over on your bed. Hold it.
Here.
A body was found. And the people who killed this person used a stick and their fucking hands and feet to
Oh
beat
my god.
to death a 40-year-old man who lived in the ABLA apartment area. 3 days after that, a 25-year-old female who also lived in the Grace Abbott building plunged a fucking knife into a 20-year-old's chest after ending a conversation, like a fight. So after the investigation of Ruthie, they found that the assholes entered her apartment through her medicine cabinet.
Ooh, I hate that.
Are
This
they
is-
in the walls?
I'm gonna tell you.
Will you just let me? Okay.
They took the cabinet out in the vacant apartment next to Ruthie and then took out her medicine cabinets, climbing through the wall into her apartment. They think that Ruthie heard the fucks trying to break in, and that's when she called 911.
Oh, right, because she said they knocked over the cabinet.
They
or
throw
something.
down and
Yeah, that's what it was.
coming from the bathroom.
Yes.
For-
I was thinking like a cabinet.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, that's how, like, Candyman, the cabinet, you say it into a mirror. And then
I
you
hate
can,
that.
then Helen in the movie realizes you can take out the cabinet, and that's how she goes in and sees that whole weird Candyman thing. So for a year, the residents of the Grace Abbott totally knew about how you can break into the apartments via the medicine cabinet. The reporter said, quote, even the dullest youth here knew you can slither from one apartment to the adjacent one through the pipe chase, which is about 2.5 feet across between the cabinets.
These must have been some skinny dudes coming
Yeah.
through the window or through the.
That is terrifying.
Well, like, the medicine cabinets are only held in by 6 nails.
Oh my god!
And in some parts in the building, you can use the pipe chase to climb vertically or below to get into another apartment.
that is why.
So when the people designed this building, the pipe chases were designed to help provide easy access to plumbing.
I don't like that.
So they didn't think,
Check your medicine cabinets, people.
But I mean, who thinks I'm going to go through this medicine cap? Like that just
No.
wouldn't even occur to me
No.
that you
Yeah.
could do that. in
unless
an
like it
apartment
was an
building.
accident and like kind of came out and people were like,
Oh,
oh
hey,
shit.
you know what we could do with this?
Yeah, but I'm not sure. So the police investigation wasn't considered to even get a whole departmental investigation on how they handled all of this. They didn't do anything about it.
Well, shocking.
So another heartbreaking thing is Goldie Hawn. Before Ruthie's death, she was said to have been acting different. She dressed better, she wasn't as crabby, and she was kind of even pleasant.
Oh no, was she getting laid?
Oh God, I hope not. I don't know. I don't want to know.
Well, I mean that's usually.
Well, she had been leaving the project early in the morning to go to school. Ruthie was literally about to leave the projects for a better home.
Oh,
God.
2 months before she died, she was able to get her SSI federal aid, Social Security federal aid, They raised her monthly amount from $154 a month to $340 a month.
Okay.
So she was paid retroactively for her SSI. So she got a big check for $1,979. Yeah, so she used some of it to buy herself a new winter coat, some clothes, and some inexpensive household items. The people of the projects were very observant and noticed the change in Ruthie. Fuck. They think that's how she was targeted.
Oh, they see her spending some money, having new things.
Yeah.
She literally might as well have just put a sign out on her front door that said, "Hey, come rob me."
Mm-hmm.
The reporter of this really good article, I'll put a link in. It was done in 1989, or I think. It's really good. Okay, so he got to visit her apartment after the investigation, after everything was cleared out, but there was still some stuff left, and he found papers for welfare grants, a math workbook, and civic worksheets that she was using to get her GED. The reporter was able to see into the apartment next to hers through the hole that the medicine cabinet used to be.
Oh my God.
Ruthie's medicine cabinet was missing, and they never found the medicine cabinet.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other one in the other apartment was seized. Candyman is such an amazing mix of fiction, truth, and urban legend. Horror movies like this are my favorite. The depth of meaning. People think horror movies are just gory and scary shit, which some are. But when a movie like this reflects to us the anxiety and fear of just living in this world, you feel connected to it. You feel like you're kind of heard. And through all these events, Ruthie Mae is still talked about, and her story didn't get swept under the rug like so many others.
Oh my God, Goldie Hawn solo, I'm gonna kill you.
That's Candyman!
That is Candyman.
You know, though, in thinking about this, like, you're right that horror films often do go further to point out some social injustices. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, like, horror movies give us, like you said, a safe space to be scared,
Mm-hmm.
right? To confront
It's a
fear.
controlled fear.
It's a controlled fear, which is a lot, obviously, safer, but does it make us more complacent in the long run? Because we can watch it, we can experience, and it's funny because this is going to lead in actually really well to the Geen story. Like, it's great that we have a way to confront our fears in a controlled environment, but does that have us turn a blind eye to the real things that are actually happening? Like, it's one thing to go and watch this movie Candyman, which is definitely a highly fictionalized version of this story. But
I don't think so. I don't feel that way. It makes me see shit more. It makes me see the injustice, the bullshit more.
right. So you would say that it actually
Makes me aware.
makes you
More
more
aware,
aware and
yeah.
then more able to confront real life fear because you have
Yeah.
that ability. It was just a
Yeah.
question. I'm just
No,
throwing it
yeah.
out there. Like, I wonder, does it make us, like you said, for you, it makes you more aware of what's
Yeah.
out there and makes it maybe easier to confront real fear because you have, like, well, I've already confronted this fear
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
movie. I think sometimes the hardest stories are the ones where, there's so many missed opportunities for things to
To have gone right.
to have
Exactly,
gone,
yeah.
yeah. Like, I
Gone
was just
different.
listening to but about the young girl. She was a really bright, smart girl. She was, like, getting her master's degree, and then she kind of, like, was sending her mom all of these weird text messages, and then she shows up at this restaurant and she orders, like, the Kobe steak and
Was
a
it the thing she
cocktail.
couldn't pay for?
Yeah,
It
and
was
then
it was the yes, she was like
Matisse,
a black Matrice Richardson.
Matrice Richardson, there you
Matrice
go. And her mom,
Richardson.
she was Matrice and her mother was Latrice. I can't imagine how people of color feel because I hear these stories and I get irate, and it feels like it happens so often now, and they're like, we've been telling you this has been happening all along. Like, you only know about it now because we have cell phones.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, how, I'm not saying that the police don't fuck up cases with white people as well, but it seems
much
overwhelming.
more-
Like,
There's
Yeah.
like
when we tell
overwhelming
these-
evidence.
when we
evidence.
tell these stories,
Yeah.
a lot of times they've not,
There's a reason why Candyman is kind of revered.
right?
Mm.
And he's a legit horror icon for the Black community.
Right.
Does that then reinforce the trope that Black men are dangerous and scary and we should be afraid of Black men? We've had societal indoctrination
Yep.
Yeah.
for years that we're supposed to be afraid of the Black man.
Yeah.
It's wild.
And it is, and it's, but the point is that now we're realizing that that
Yes.
is a bias that we have. And
Right.
that's the first step that white people have to take
Yeah.
to admit, like, okay, maybe you're not racist, but we all have these biases.
Yeah.
We all have these subconscious biases. And I tell you what, one of the funniest stand-up acts I ever saw was this guy. And he was talking about how, why are white women afraid of Black men? Black men should be afraid of white women.
Yeah, I
Because
remember
he was
that.
like, all you have to do is be like, Black man. And I'm like, fuck. But it's true. Like,
It's true. That's
It's just
systemic
ingrained.
racism.
Yeah.
and I will be completely honest in that if I'm walking down the street alone, I don't care if you're Black or white. If you're a man and you're coming towards me,
Yeah, that's true. If you're a man,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna be
Yeah.
freaked out.
My
And that's
first
just-
thought is man or woman. Okay.
if it's
then-
a man or a
Man or
woman.
Yeah. Or
And I've even noticed that if I'm at the grocery store, I will go to a female cashier, and I will only go to a male cashier if I have to. And I didn't notice it,
interesting.
and I just do it. It's just
Yeah.
habit for me to look and say, "Oh, there's a woman cashier." And
I
I'll go to
prefer,
her.
it's weird. I prefer female doctors over male doctors.
I also prefer female.
But I
doctors
think
over
that
male
that's
doctors.
because we as women have spent so many years
Well-
being dismissed by male doctors.
let me tell you this.
You tell us,
People-
Lindsay.
Tell us, Lynn.
The man who fucked up my back gave up. Fucked up my back. Tried to ask for help. He just put his hands up and walked away.
Anyway, sorry. End of rant. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Bye.
Bye.
I think that's it. Are we done?
Yeah, I mean, we are done. Today has been an adventure,
It really has.
Yes.
and
Now you go to
we're-
sleep, you little shithead.
Yeah, seriously.
A little turd nugget.
Now it's time to go home.
Thank you for listening. We love you. Remember who you are and what you represent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Remember
what you represent.
You're a strong goddamn woman.
Yes.
Fuck them motherfuckers.
Strong.
And don't let
Woman.
demons run your life.
Girl power.
Girl power.
I love you. Goodbye.
Love you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. We put out new episodes every single Wednesday, and if you're impatient like me, be sure to become a Patreon where you can get your episodes early each week. For as little as $2 a month, you not only significantly support the production of this podcast, but you'll also get ad-free episodes in addition to them being early. Go to patreon.com/threesacrime-podcast. For pictures, videos, and links related to this episode, be sure to check out our Instagram at threesacrime. And for more information, go to threesacrime.com.